Transmitting to you from Old Heart Radio.
Anybody that keeps up with movie news knows that we're in a desolate wasteland of content.
Oh, it's empty.
There's nothing going on.
I'm waiting. I'm almost exclusively waiting for Steve Carell's Space Force, the Netflix show that's about to drop.
It looks so funny.
Oh my god, it's gonna be good. I'm just so excited to see Steve Carell back in like a like main role like that.
Yeah, and it's the creators of The Office. So
yep. But besides that,
lightning strikes twice. Dude, beside that, I finished phase 2 of the MCU. Oh boy.
Oh doozy.
Once again, watching them in chronological order. So I watched Guardians, then immediately Guardians 2. Dude, I swear to God, watching those movies back to back, I realized again how fucking good those movies are.
Oh yeah. I don't think the MCU would be nearly as possible without like those movies and the tone that those movies brought to the MCU.
But then also just like looking, like I'm taking like a bunch some classes that's all about like critically looking at medium and the themes it presents. And like with that, like in the back of my head when watching those movies, like they're like surprisingly like subtle and like nuanced films when it comes to just like the themes they present about their characters.
Yeah, fair.
I was like looking at it, I was like, fuck, these movies might be like technically some of the best written in the franchise.
Yeah, that's cool. That's an interesting observation. I mean, yeah, like,
and it's all in like these little moments. I think in watching the MCU over again, it was like a bunch of these little moments that really develop the characters. It's fascinating. It's like no wonder they've succeeded.
Yeah, well, and that, I mean, not to jump too quick into our topic, but that reminds me of like one of the issues I have with what we're talking about today. Which is
because we're leading it on. What are we talking about today, Jared?
We're talking about
let the listener find out themselves.
We're definitely not talking about Marvel, which should be a shock to people. But like, I agree with you because
shill.
But I agree. Like, I mean, like especially the James Gunn movies, which is why I think Warner Brothers nabbed him. They realized like he did something that like really just like created a whole atmosphere to like further put like other characters in and play around it further. And like he really did like he started developing those characters in a way that like you don't really imagine like superhero movies to be focused on character driven plots, but like just like about like hitting something or like explosions and stuff. And like those in a very comedic but also kind of like sad way really like develop these characters.
Dude, all the comedy in Guardians of the Galaxy comes from sadness. Oh, yeah. It's really morbid on like subsequent viewings.
Yeah, they really play into that idea that like all drama eventually becomes comedy with time.
It's like, and like the fact that all these people are like broken characters. In watching it again, I was like, oh yeah, no wonder Peter Quill clocked Thanos after he found out Gamora died. Like
it's a hell of an intense moment, man. Like, and between like, those characters,
but it's so well paid off, and it's so well led up to. And for the most part, a lot of this stuff for most viewers is going to be subconscious, or like little things that you sort of shrug at, but then really stay with you.
Hell yeah.
I mean, like. So should we actually get into what we're talking about?
Yeah. I guess we might as well.
I feel like it's valid. Like we're talking about today things that DC could do to lay out a franchise in their own specific style,
Agreed. And what we were just talking about really does like play into like an aspect that they're lacking, which is like this distinct tonality, and I feel like they tried to copy
the Guardians of the Galaxy feel and overall vibe with like Suicide Squad, but didn't understand what made it special,
And guess who's making the Suicide Squad reboot?
James Gunn.
What a shocker.
What a shocker.
I mean,
it's a reboot in quotes.
I'm yeah, in quotes. I'm stoked about that. Only because James Gunn is attached to it. I mean, there's some really cool names attached to attached to that, as well, like in terms of like actors. But James Gunn obviously brings like the most weight to that table, into that movie.
Oh yeah, totally.
So that'll be fucking cool. But
I'll throw it out there. Like Chris Pratt is not an objectively good actor. He's
Agreed.
he's a good comic, and he's funny, and he's got great comedic timing.
Mm-hmm.
But without the writing that James Gunn brings to the table to bolster it, like anything that he's worked with James Gunn in wouldn't be as impactful.
Agreed. But yeah, and like that's,
I feel like he directs and leads with the writing so well, and like hopefully they'll carve out an identity through the Suicide Squad coming up.
Yeah. Well, I think it will, especially once you see James Gunn actually direct Margot Robbie, who has been like basically,
she's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I got to be honest, dude. Her Harley Quinn is like something that will be one of the successful aspects of a future DC franchise. And
I feel like she's the only redeeming quality of Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can't think of a single redeeming quality about that movie besides like the further development of her character.
Maybe Will Smith.
Maybe, but he's not even even playing Deadshot in the future. So it's like he gave us this like
Will Smith.
Yeah, he just gave us a Will Smith superhero performance, which was like, I mean, I love Will Smith, but like it was a pretty generic Will Smith role. Like,
yeah,
you know,
even more so than Gemini Man. Which I haven't watched, but I've heard is terrible.
I didn't even bother either, man. I saw that trailer and I was like, Will, what are you doing? Just go back to being the Fresh Prince, man. Like, drop another Fresh Prince album.
I did see a clip. There's supposedly an action scene in that film that is fucking awesome and like beautifully shot, but nothing else stands up to it. Like that's not, it's just, I really hope that when the Suicide Squad comes out, it isn't riding off of James Gunn's like capability to write Guardians of the Galaxy. I hope it's something different.
Oh yeah,
and that it paves the way towards it, like DC having its own identity, which absolutely. That like the majority of their problems have came from like, oh, okay, we're gonna buy into this like dark Superman, but then we're not going to.
Yeah, they haven't stuck. They haven't stuck their gun. They haven't stuck to anything.
It's like Man of Steel was like sort of bleak, not really. Like it was pretty like neutral feeling. Like there was some dark shit, but not really.
No, yeah,
Batman vs Superman was really fucking dark, and there was no levity in that movie. And then Justice League was a joke. Like, the whole thing was
Justice League was wacky.
Justice League was also watched Phase 2. Avengers: Age of Ultron is a weak movie on subsequent viewings.
It's better than Justice League though.
It is. It's better, but it's still like the weakest of the Marvel movies. Like I watched it and I was like, "Fuck, this has like fun pieces with a shitty script."
I don't know if it's the weakest of the Marvel movies though.
I won't say it's the weakest. I will say it's the weakest of the Marvel movies that I pretend exist. You know,
Fair enough.
There are a couple weaker movies, but I like to think that they never happened. But I feel like Justice League is if they took the shittiest parts of the Age of Ultron script and just expanded on them, you know?
They couldn't even pull that off, right?
Yeah, I know. Like it's
man, yeah, dude, it was
and then garbage. Wonder Woman's great.
Wonder Woman, the only beef I have with Wonder Woman is the semi-generic villain that ends up happening near the end. Like it was kind of cool, like Ares is background player, but then turns into a big hulking thing that punches Wonder Woman at the end.
How cool would it have been if Ares was totally different than the comics and they made him like this frail man just pulling the strings behind conflict through history?
Yeah, dude. I mean, that would have been hella cool. They could have been
fucking sweet.
They could have developed that character into a similar Loki-like character.
Dude, he could have been like Wonder Woman's Thanos. He could have been through all of her movies.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. Like there's more longevity in that kind of role. But
so, dude, who that's the only beef I have. Who would want to kill the werewolf dude from Harry Potter? I mean, come on.
but Wonder Woman, technically Aquaman I think was a success. Shazam was well received, I believe.
Shazam's good, man.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to a
Dude, The
further movie
Rock
because
started training for Black Adam.
yeah,
Like
like
those,
I like that he's
he needs
specifically
to
training
train.
for Black Adam. It's like, dude, you're fine. They basically assume that you're
You're
going to
already
look like you.
you're already a 50-year-old man yoked. I mean, come on.
Exactly,
the
dude. But
I
the
mean,
thing
like,
is,
I hope that Shazam has the opportunity to carve out its own niche. Wonder
Seven,
Woman as well.
yeah. Well, Wonder
And
Woman,
those are like the pieces of hope I have.
Wonder Woman is going to be the movie that jumps through different times, obviously, because like you see, like, we're now like on to 84 where we're going to be doing like there's the huge nostalgia pull for the 80s, which is awesome, and they look like they hit that tone really well.
Yeah, they even used the set from Stranger Things.
Exactly. And but like, I mean, that one will kind of like give you some sort of sense of it gives you some sort of sense of history in the timeline.
Absolutely.
In the universe, but it's very loose and like not very grounded, because there's nothing in those movies. They're pretty self-contained. So
yeah, you know what? In looking at Wonder Woman, like one of the most positive parts of that film were the side cast, like little characters there that actually so a lot of people criticize Wonder Woman for taking a lot from Captain America: The First Avenger.
I do.
I think it's a better movie, personally. Well, having watched The First Avenger, like the side characters in that are just like, they're just like there's an Asian dude there. There's a black guy. Like,
yeah, they're not really that important, which is strange. Well, they're important for like moving parts of the plot along, but like they're not like established characters at all.
Versus like in Wonder Woman, you got the dude. He's like each character gets a bit of character, actually. Like they have the sniper guy with PTSD that can't do shit because he's afraid and he's a alcoholic, and there's the Native American guy that's
well, and that's what I mean. Like they took the time to like kind of give those even side characters a bit of a story, and
just a bit. It's like a minute of conversation with each of them.
Enough to like get you to pay attention to them more. You know what I mean? And that's like, that's an interesting observation, because what's opposite of that though is like in Captain America: The First Avengers, like the Howling Commandos are like a thing. They've had their own comic books for decades, and so like to not really give them much of a story per se per character with those characters. They could do
some fun stuff. They could do some fun stuff. Hopefully, I would hope they would eventually do it where it's like Peggy and them running around in fucking World War II after Steve's gone.
Boom. Hey, Disney, we just gave, hey, Feige, we just gave you a free Disney Plus idea.
There you go. Dude, I would watch that.
Make a Howling Commandos like 15-minute episode show where they just go like fuck up
Agent Carter and the Howling Commandos.
Exactly,
like,
dude.
Monster of the Week. There you go.
Dude, that'd be perfect. Feige, get after us. You owe us 10%.
We're making the money. And I mean, not to get too caught up on Marvel.
Yeah. Again, this podcast is about DC. Thank you.
But
I forgot.
But it's like there has to be like a valid there's already a valid comparison there. And I mean, DC needs to carve out their own niche where you can no longer compare it. Other than the fact that it's superheroes, they have to have their own tonality.
And so this is what brought me to this topic to begin with, is that it's, we talked about it a little bit before this, but DC comics have a history. Probably, I really want to say it's for myself since like the 80s comics, and like it happened to Marvel a little bit, but it really happened in DC where they started getting darker and grittier, and those characters that kind of aspect spilled into the 90s and kind of became a staple for DC comic superheroes. And
everything became really dark. And everybody got really ripped on the covers.
Yeah, like, and exactly, but and they just got notorious for that. And I think one of the reasons why you're not seeing success with those characters on the big screen is because you're not giving them a chance to have that sort of like heavier aspect to them, like grittier aspect to them, even though that's what fans have grown to like expect from the world that is portrayed through those characters, and it's fucking, and
it's like, why people fucking love Injustice? Because it's calling back to that like darker time where it was not family friendly.
And that's like why I think Joker became like this I mean, amongst many things, it became a popular movie because it was a gritty portrayal of that world and that character.
Yeah.
And people were
And
like, "Oh
dude,
shit, yeah, that's kind of spot on." Like,
hopefully Pattinson's Batman can capitalize a bit on that. It
well,
sort of
and
sounds like that's the direction they're going.
exactly, dude. And that's why I'm so excited about that movie. Like, because it looks like it might be going, like, taking that kind of mentality of like, let's keep this sort of heavier tone and expanding on it, you know, bringing it more into like a mainstream character, you know, like
Dude,
Batman,
I'm
obviously.
cool. I'm cool with that 100%, especially with Batman. Like,
Yeah.
there's no better character to be dark and gritty with. Why, like
Well,
you said
yeah,
before we started recording,
Batman's the OG
why the
of
fuck
dark
did
and gritty
everybody
in
hate
comics.
Batman and Robin? Like, that's
exactly, dude. Like, and like nobody's expecting neon lights and
no
flashing car, like, you know,
silver
flashing
nipples.
shit.
No one needs it.
Yeah, nobody needs like bat nipples. Okay, we want to see Batman get bloody, like punching a criminal. I don't know. We want to see Batman using a grappling hook and seeing like, and you know, kicking Colin Farrell's penguin in the gut. I don't know. Like,
I want to see a Batman so deeply and darkly conflicted that he beats a man barely to death. You know,
dude, raw,
like,
man. Like,
that's Batman.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't give a fuck. He will kick the shit out of you until you are about to die, and then he will save you.
Well, and that's, again, see, like DC is so, well, I say DC. Every time I say DC when I'm talking about film, just for the listener, obviously I'm talking about Warner Brothers and like their you know, parent companies, whatever owns whatever. But DC again has
AT&T.
been like, yeah, AT&T basically.
Fuck.
Like that's again, that's what people expect. They want a little more of that like grittiness, and then they're not like, I think they're just, DC and is so hung up on trying to be family friendly because it is a sure bet. It's a sure bet to play to the family. Like, you're gonna make money off of that if you successfully get family films out there.
But then at the same time, if evidenced by anything, like,
dude,
not really either. Like,
dude, Logan, Deadpool, both Deadpools, Joker now, you know, what, like, where these rated R movies are drawing crowds. They're drawing adults. They're drawing fucking kids too, dude. Like, they're, you know, like parents.
Dude, when I went to watch Deadpool 2 in theaters, like, in the seats next to me, my girlfriend, there's a mom and her like kid. And the kids started laughing at a fucked up joke, and the mom was like, like, they're still getting like paid for it.
It's also like on that mom, it's like, would you like, you brought the kid to the movie that's gonna have these jokes.
I know.
You know, but like,
I know,
you know what I mean? Like, but that's the thing. It's like parents are still turning out, you know, the family. Dude, like,
kids get bought GTA every fucking day, you know, like, people, it's not that big of a barrier to break.
Yeah, we've moved past a certain type of a certain type of time, and we're kind of, you know, like, things are different fucking now, and people just need to like accept that. And these rated R DC movies have a better chance of success right now.
I got called a pussy by a kid on Xbox Live the other day. I mean, like, I'm not gonna, like, it's like, we don't have to worry about being PC with our films anymore. Like,
no, dude, and like, that's the thing. It's just like, people want to play to the biggest. It's like, why they, like, if you can't show a movie in China, you're immediately like having a fucking, like, your box office is not going to be shit. Because, like, people like change movies to be shown in certain countries because they just want the money, like that. But DC would, I think DC would make more money with their grittier movies. Look at their success with Christopher Nolan's Batman series.
Oh yeah,
you know, look at the success with. I will say, I like, for what Man of Steel was, like, I thought it was an interesting way of reintroducing Superman
in a different way.
Yeah. But they just but because they got shit on for having such a bombastic ending where, like, you know, the entirety of Metropolis was destroyed. Like,
it turned into a disaster movie at the end.
Yeah. Like, I was expecting The Rock to be like climbing a skyscraper in the background, you know, when I rewatched it, at least.
It's a lot, but then at the same time, like, Man of Steel went for something different. Batman v Superman went for something different. And if they stuck to their guns, it would have had a different tonality.
And even stretching back to Tim Burton's Batman and Batman Returns. Those movies were so popular and so well received. And it's because people, especially in the 80s, were fucking into the dark Batman. And
Yeah.
even though it doesn't necessarily age as dark, obviously, like at the time, Michael Keaton's like Batman was fucking intense, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like
Oh yeah, dude.
and so
It's funny now, but at the same time, like looking like in the 80s,
Yeah.
that shit would have been taken seriously.
like the first Batman movie.
You want to get wild?
Yeah, dude. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? Like, oh shit. Like,
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
yeah, I love that scene. Oh man. Shouts to Michael Keaton, man. I love Michael Keaton movies.
Legend.
But yeah, seriously though, I just think I think that's their huge issue, is that they've just disrespected what they built in the comics in terms of like expectation from the
Actually, it brings me to what like has been paying respect lately and has gained some kind of critical acclaim, the animation.
Yeah, dude. And that's
like historically DC's had phenomenal animated products, vastly overshadowing anything Marvel's tried to do.
Yeah. Like, so I remember back in like the early 2000s, Marvel did a couple like Ultimate Avengers movies, animated movies, and DC had like, a couple of different animated movies, and they were out there, and they were just so much better. And then eventually Marvel, I think, just kind of like petered to a halt.
There's a couple Spider-Man animated shows that are like fucking awesome, like I'm nostalgic for, but then the same, like that's it. There's nothing else.
Yeah, there's like certain nostalgia placed on like the 90s series for me and stuff.
Yeah, 90s X-Men, you know.
But like
that's it. But Justice League has been consistently better, and they've been doing dark shit too.
Dude. Yeah, well, and so you were saying that the recently Justice League Dark just wrapped up. I haven't seen. Have you actually watched that new movie? What's it called again?
I've watched a few of them. I haven't seen the new one. So it's called Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. So what's worth noting is that this is a series of animated movies that's based on the New 52 continuity.
Yeah. Okay.
And this just wrapped up. There are 15 movies.
That fucking blows my mind.
It started like 5 years ago.
You said that to me earlier. You said 15 movies, and I was like, when the fuck did those movies get made? I did not. So I have not known.
I know. They're all like an hour and a half, and they drop like 3 a year for 5 years.
Holy shit. I remember seeing the first one. Anyway,
So I got all of them here. So it's Flashpoint, Paradox is first, and then Justice League War, Son of Batman, Justice League Throne of Atlantis, Nightwing and Robin, Batman versus Robin, Batman Bad Blood, Justice League versus Teen Titans, Justice League Dark, Constantine, City of Demons, Teen Titans, The Judas Contract, Suicide Squad, Hell to Play, The Death of Superman, Reign of the Supermen, Batman Hush, Wonder Woman Bloodlines, and now Apocalypse War. After Apocalypse War, they're done.
I've seen 5 of those movies, I think. That's insane. I did not know they made that many of them.
Yeah. But what they're saying is that like Apocalypse War, that's it. They're done touching this continuity, and I guess in Apocalypse War they go fucking nuts killing characters.
That's awesome. I want to see it. So do you think there's probably a chance of them like just starting a new continuity? What's your take on that? Because it sounds like it was successful.
Yeah, I mean, I think I watched reviews for all of these movies at least. I haven't seen all of them, but I've watched reviews for them, and like all of them are like I think the average is like a 7.5 off the top of my head. It's not phenomenal, but good.
Yeah, well, as an average for sure.
Yeah, I think like topping out, the Teen Titans Judas Contract is like a fucking phenomenal one. Shit. Same thing with Flashpoint Paradox, which started this continuity.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I mean, like that was when you said it right off the bat, and I was like, oh yeah, I've seen. I mean, obviously I've seen it, but I didn't realize that was part of it.
And these are like dark, gritty movies. They're taken very seriously, and it's very much the tonality of something akin to Joker. And I mean, I'm not surprised that like this has gone by so successfully. And also, this is something that bring back to the MCU, everybody's very critical of the lack of ability to just end it. Like, how fruitful has this been for 5 years, 15 movies, and they're just done and they're going to start something fresh?
Yeah, it takes some guts but that's why I'm wondering why they just don't do that with film. Like they've obviously had such a terrible string of movies with like one or two
Totally.
successes, that it's like, why not just cut your loss and say like, we're done with this chapter, we're gonna open up
Fuck
a
it.
fresh one, and it's gonna be like, whatever.
The only movies that exist in this continuity are now Wonder Woman, Shazam, and Birds of Prey.
Yeah, dude, exactly. Like,
Like that's it.
I mean, I just think, yeah, it's interesting. That's an interesting point,
Maybe Aquaman.
that they're willing to do that with animation. Well, here's the thing: you might as well cut Aquaman, because they made one of the most prominent characters, Mira.
Mhm.
Should they cast Amber Heard in that role? And
Yeah,
I've recently heard that she's actually probably out from that role because of like Johnny Depp related issues.
drama.
But so they just cut that shit. Anything that has extra baggage that you don't fucking need to take with you into this new chapter of successful films, just fucking cut it, because fans aren't gonna miss it. Nobody's gonna be like, oh, how come Amber Heard's not in the Aquaman 2?
No one's champing at the bit for like, why was there never a sequel to Dracula Untold? Like that's just dark universe it, Like just cut it off. Start it again.
I fucking hate that movie. Yeah. Dude, exactly. Like nobody's like no shame in that. There's no shame in that, because if you make a couple of successful movies, especially off of the popularity of Joker, and then capturing I know Wonder Woman 1984 is going to be a success. Like that is going to be a popular movie.
Dude,
because like it's already captured like everybody's attention from the trailer. So
yeah.
Once they kind of like get those two successful movies back to back, they can, well, kind of back to back, they can just like say move on to the fucking next shit. But yeah, dude, like they need to keep rolling with that, and then they need to keep trying to do an actual like adult television series.
Yeah, I mean, and they're sort of doing that with the Harley Quinn show, I guess, which has been very highly acclaimed.
Again, another successful DC animated show.
Yeah. That's it. I think that's just their bread and butter.
Dude.
I feel like animation, it has a specific, we talked about this with Avatar. It's like it has a specific place, it has a specific feel. And characters can do certain things and they'll be accepted in animation but not accepted in live action.
Yeah, totally.
And like that's just like looking at what they've done with the Harley Quinn series, which I haven't watched any of it, but every time I hear about it, people are praising it.
Yeah.
And then seeing a handful of these Justice League Dark movies, like they're all quality, of higher quality than their live action features. I'm surprised they don't just push this shit more.
Yeah, I mean, well, again,
and especially with the trend of direct to video looking like it's coming back, or direct to streaming.
Yeah,
like really buy into the animated stuff.
I mean, I agree. I really think they should just continue. They really need to continue that road, because looking back all the way to Batman the Animated Series. I apologize
if listeners can hear it. There's a car alarm going off.
Oh shit!
There it goes.
But tracing it back all the way to like Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Justice League,
Batman Beyond.
Batman Beyond, which I really wish they would reboot. Dude, Batman Beyond would be such a good streaming show.
They do a remaster?
Like an episode. I mean, well, I'm saying they should do like a live action like series. Could you imagine like you taking like the weight of like the Daredevil Netflix show, but giving it to Batman Beyond?
Did you ever see the concept art for like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Batman after The Dark Knight Rises?
I don't know if I did.
It's the Batman Beyond suit.
I would have been intrigued. I would have definitely been.
I guess at some point they were considering doing a fourth movie. So there's some concept art. It looks fucking sick.
That's wild. But like even so, like like Batman Beyond, and then like even like Justice League Unlimited, and like everything that's happened from like I'd say Justice League Unlimited and on. It has like they've had success with that shit. So it's like, well, how can I don't know? It's just. But I think it's
maybe the key isn't to translate it into a live action medium, but to just really promote and buy into the animation. Because I think that's their problem, is that like if they can either embrace the really dark stuff and make it like super gritty, like they just tried doing, but it doesn't look like they're going that direction anymore. or they continue to try and spoof Marvel, and people will be like, okay, it's the same shit, but it's better from these guys.
Yeah, it's like that's the B version of Marvel. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and that
It's
will
like,
forever.
okay, so a group of rogues that doesn't quite get along, that's needs to do a mission to save the world. One is actually funny, and one has Will Smith. Like, that's it.
Yeah, dude, it's I don't know, man. Like they just need to stick. Yeah, I think they just need to stick to like some of the successful things, like the animated series. But they need to again.
They need
They
to
just
find their
need,
tonality and stick to their guns.
and that's really like the baseline. I think that's been their biggest problem. They haven't found that stride with the live action stuff. I think they got
Dude, they got their chance. Hopefully, Pants and Batman's able to put them on the right track.
exactly, dude, that's that. I think Batman is a perfect avenue to kind of create continue that darker image from Joker, continue, but also kind of add certain elements of like a bit of a brighter like world, like maybe some of that nostalgia for like. Well, I mean, what time period is Batman
Dude,
set in? Do you know?
I think it's like early '90s.
Yeah, then they could easily capitalize on some more of that nostalgia market that they're obviously playing out with
I would
Wonder
be
Woman.
totally down with them doing and you were talking about earlier, like nobody wants like neon lights in Batman. I would totally be down for like a neon noir Batman, you know?
Well, yeah,
That'd
I
be
mean,
fucking sick.
if they yeah, well, like something like that, like they kind
Have
of
you ever
they played at with
oh, sorry, I'm cutting you off.
oh, well, I was saying like they kind of toyed with it in Harley Quinn, and they kind of toyed with it in Suicide Squad a little bit, but like that would be the kind of like an interesting.
If there's one thing we've learned, it's don't trust David Ayer.
Yeah. But that's I agree with you. That would be an interesting like direction to put like the modern set DC universe, but I think it'd be smart
like
for them
the
to
general
continue
aesthetic of like Ghost in the Shell and like
Blade Runner exactly. But I think they should take their time to like kind of go through and put together their two markets that have really worked for them so far, nostalgia and this new and this kind of like R-rated aspect, and sort of like 1980 Wonder Woman 1984, do a 90s Batman, and then kind of like work maybe like add one more movie and then like set it in like a new modern day like DC universe setting.
Yeah.
And so
totally.
I don't know. I think that could be a direction that
Dude,
that'd be what I would do.
Really,
like I think,
and I can see them even jumping back into like the golden age of comics too. Then like that'd be a perfect like make it. I would love if every DC movie was a one shot start and maybe tie like some stuff together based on the characters. But like imagine a Superman film set in the golden age of comics with like a properly old-fashioned looking super suit.
The dude's not even flying; he's just leaping tall buildings in a single bound.
Dude, oh, fuck yeah! Dude, truth, justice, and the American way.
Well, no, that would be interesting. But that would be
like period pieces.
Exactly, but like build it, make them build up. Like choose how you plan it. Like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, your Trinity, right? And place one in this period, one in another time period, one in another time period, and at the end of it, it leads you to the modern setting, where you can introduce modern heroes, modern world. Like, I think that would be an interesting way to take their like audience on a ride. But instead, they've just been doing these like they've been portraying these random versions of modern Metropolis or modern Gotham and modern DC universe. And it's just like, they're all conflicting with each other. And so none of it makes sense.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what everybody's just like, well, I don't fucking care, because it's the next movie's going to be completely different. There's no
exactly. There's no consistent tissue,
Yeah. So if that's the way you want to go, like establish those different things, and like then you'll see like certain, like if you like you said, dude, if you put Superman in like a golden age of comics like time period, then you do a Wonder Woman movie, reference like Metropolis and like a and see like you see for a second how it's grown, and then do the same in the next movie, and then like by the time I think there's just way smarter ways of going about this that
I really just like the idea too, and like I call this franchise fatigue or whatever, of just like look at like the Superman Red Sun animated movie that came out. Self-contained, that's it.
Well, yeah, it has to be self-contained though, because it's an Elseworld story.
Still, I mean, like I'd be down for just an Elseworlds universe.
Oh, dude. I mean, I will say that if that's the way they would want to go, I would be so fucking down with that. Just take those characters and just put them in all these different crazy situations, movie by movie.
Have Superman, yeah, dude. Superman killing Stalin at the end of that. Mwah, Rich Marinara.
Well, like the whole thing about that it's one of my favorite Superman stories, but the whole thing about that is just the wild aspect of it becoming full circle at the end of that story.
Where he ends up actually becoming Superman at the end of it. Like
it's insane, dude. It's like
it's so.
I think
that's it.
It's a really beautiful and poetic story overall, but
totally. And I mean, like I think that's it, and that's something that Marvel has been able to capitalize on. Like we had these generally archetypal characters, and we've been able to evolve them through exposure and time developed into the character. It's something that DC hasn't done. I feel like DC is like, here's your characters. You know Superman, you know Batman. They're not going to change.
Yeah, exactly. They haven't taken the time or they haven't respected the time needed to develop a character in the public, like I guess.
Yeah, because people know who Superman and Batman are, but that doesn't mean they'll care.
Yeah,
you know?
We recognize the symbols on their chest, but we're not immediately like focused on them.
A prime example, once again, MCU. How do you feel about Iron Man 3?
Iron Man 3, I mean, honestly, I rewatched it recently. It's actually a really interesting movie because the main thing you get out of it is Tony Stark's character development.
Exactly.
It's all about him as a person.
Yeah. And it's not as much about Iron Man, it's about Tony Stark and how he's changed because of the events of it.
Could you imagine? Sorry.
And it's you're all good. But it's just like that movie informs so much of his character through the rest of it. And you see the periodic evolution of him from like this ego-driven weapons manufacturer into a paranoid mess, into a dude that'd be willing to give his life to save everyone else. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Could you imagine taking let's just make it like the Batman character and doing an entire movie where he doesn't have any of his gadgets, he doesn't have any of his money to like draw from, he doesn't have, he's just like stuck battling something,
using his mind,
his detective skills to solve a crime. That'd be fucking dope, dude. And I
think that's what looks like the Pattinson one's going to be.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The thing is, like DC, because they do have those iconic characters, they don't necessarily need to do a movie prior to that type of movie.
Exactly.
They need to just dive into that and say, Bruce Wayne's fucking off on this crazy adventure, and he doesn't have any of his Batman shit. Like, what's he going to do? But he's Batman.
I'm forgetting it. It was the City on Fire story where like Bane's took over all of Arkham, or not all of Arkham, but all of Gotham.
Oh man,
and Batman's like it's essentially what The Dark Knight Rises is based off of in like the last act.
Yeah. So you're talking about the storyline where Bane actually breaks Batman's back and shit.
Yeah. And then takes over Gotham City pretty much, and then the city gets closed off.
Yeah, it's an intense. Yeah,
it's an intense story, and at that point, it's like yes, Batman and The Dark Knight Rises has the plane and stuff, but imagine him incapable of getting to Wayne Manor without any of his resources, taking down Bane and an army of mercenaries himself.
Yeah, dude, that would be a fucking
killer
movie.
Sick.
That'd be a killer movie, dude.
And like watch I don't know, you should I always recommend it, but play some of the Arkham games. Like he has tech in that, but it's very much like they could just base a movie off of this shit. Yeah, because it's just Batman moving through the shadows. It's much easier to dispose of everyone if you're just being stealthy and knocking people unconscious.
Could you imagine
rather than hopping in the mix?
Like in that type of movie, you could even pull off, and not this this is my favorite type of thing, but you could pull off like some interesting like shaky camera kind of shots where it's like literally him like running through. You could do some cool like one shot fight scenes in something like that where he's like literally taking down. I don't know. I'm just envisioning like a. Dude, really
I feel like that's the essence of Batman. Is that he's a force of nature that everybody's afraid of because they never see him coming.
Yeah.
While I love that scene with Affleck kicking ass in the warehouse, it's the only good scene in Batman versus Superman. Yeah. Like I would love to see a Batman that is like slow and methodical and is just fucking checking boxes.
Dude, he's the knight, man.
He's a genius. And like, yeah, it's I would love to see that. I just finished, like I mentioned, I think last week, I was playing Assassin's Creed. Like I just finished that game, and like fuck, like and like that type of shit of just like hiding in a corner, waiting. It would have to be faster paced because it's a film, not a video game.
Of course, but there's obviously ways of pulling it off.
Yeah, there's obvious ways of pulling it off, but just like I can totally imagine Batman waiting in the shadows, seeing an opportunity, and just bolting like fucking fast.
Yeah, well, exactly, and like that's what I mean. Like, I think they need to some degree,
swift and calculated.
To some degree, it's like such a delicate balance. Not fully rely on the iconic nature of these characters, but also know that people going into any movie that has the word Batman or Superman or Wonder Woman or Justice League attached to it already kind of understands who these characters are. So you can go and do these like stories where you just immediately dive them into like an adventure. Yeah. And that would be like that kind of thing, where that kind of movie where you could then focus on like the aspects of what this guy does as Batman, rather than like, how does he become Batman? Like, what does he do in his Batcave?
I actually think that was the most refreshing thing about Ben Affleck's portrayal, was that they just went into it, and he's been doing it for a while.
Well, but the thing is, they kind of use the excuse for that type of story. They use that as the excuse that he was just an older Batman, and like you know whatever. But what we need them to use that kind of mentality for a Batman that will be able to like say like, this is a younger Batman in his Robert Pattinson basically. But
it's like, we know he's sad his parents died, we know.
It's established. It's just, it's already, all that shit's already established. If I see a scene in in Matt Reeves' movie where Bruce Wayne's parents get killed, if I see that scene in that movie, it's going to be immediately a bit of a letdown for me, because we
don't know it's going to happen.
We don't need to see it. We don't need to see
every
it.
director.
Every
I sort of hope they just like do, at the end of Joker, when Arthur Fleck's laughing to himself and it's like about his joke that she wouldn't get, and it just does that like boom and like hard cut to Bruce standing over the dead parents. If they just use a flash still of that when he's like staring into space and just like boom, that again.
Sure. Yeah.
That's all I need to see.
Yeah. I just
don't need to see the whole scene. I just need to see that he's sad.
Yeah. I just don't think it needs to. I mean, I barely even think it needs that, though, because that's such a staple of what the Batman character is. I think most people already understand that. And so it's like, it's just unnecessary. It's like seeing, it's like why I think it was a good move not to show Uncle Ben getting killed in Spider-Man Homecoming. You know what I mean? Like you already know it's such a pivotal part of this character.
They essentially made that Tony Stark at this point. So
yeah, I guess
there you go. Not in a bad way, but then at the same time, like
fair. Yeah.
It works to the same effect.
But like they just, I don't know. I just don't think it's a necessary thing in another movie. Just.
Yeah, I agree. It's so fundamental. It's so already we're so aware of it that you don't need to show it off.
Yeah, it's not something that needs to be focused on any further, I think. But I don't know, man. Like I just like DC Comics when I was a kid, dude. Like especially DC Comics and those characters were my fucking bread and butter. Like they were my favorite.
Same here. I did not give a fuck about anybody in Marvel except for Spider-Man.
Yeah, dude. Yes. Most of my friends like Marvel Comics, and I was just like, I always, they're fine, they're great. I'm not knocking them, but DC was always my go-to, and like, yeah, it was because,
dude, I wouldn't be surprised if if DC had a better standing in when it comes to film. I feel like they would outshine Marvel. If they started first, Marvel probably wouldn't have been able to take off as well.
I agree. I mean, kudos to Marvel for like really finding their stride though. Like that's, and like figuring out what to do with their superheroes, but
then at the same time, like if you were to ask somebody who's completely unfamiliar with the films, who hasn't watched an MCU movie, who hasn't watched a DC movie, and you ask them what are your top 3 superheroes, I would put money on them responding Spider-Man, Batman, Superman.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I was gonna say those three are like the most. Those three are the most popular and recognized. Some of the most recognized characters in the entire world.
The imagery has been so ingrained in pop culture that you don't even have to be a fucking fan and you know who Batman is.
Yeah. I literally think I can't remember which is the top position. It's either Spider-Man or Superman, but one of them is like the number one recognized thing in the world.
It's
So
probably
it's
like
fucking
back
crazy.
and forth.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. But like that's what I mean. Like that's why you can rely on the fact that people already know a bit about these characters or like what they might. I don't know. You can rely like on the fact that people might know just about them a little bit and just lean away from those origin centric stories and focus more on like how
doing
these people
something different.
Yeah, how these people operate. What's their fucking day to day? You know what I mean? Like that kind of shit. But I don't know, man. I just really want to see DC and Warner Brothers stop fucking it up because like these characters are like they're so good. They're so good and dear to me that it's just like every time they make a shitty movie, it's like you make me not want to go see it. You make me want to like not like the next time a movie comes out from them, I don't.
The world just a bit more.
Well, it's like the next time they make a movie, I just like every time they make a shitty one, the next one I just expect to like less and less, and I don't want to eventually be like, no, fuck a Batman movie, man. I don't want to go bother seeing it. Like,
yeah, I know that would just be a shame.
Yeah. Shit, man.
So, long sprawling conversation. DC needs to get their shit together.
Basically, and that's the moral of this entire story. DC needs to get their shit together. Speaking of getting their shit together, though, we were talking about this a little bit. We at Old Heart Radio have finally been trying to establish some sort of semblance of a schedule. Very loose schedule. I'm doing air quotes here.
Loose, but we will hopefully be able to stick to it. At least we're not directly locked in, but we're hoping to get these released. Maybe give us like a day, give or take a day. You know?
Yeah. Give us a little lenience, dear hot dogs.